East Jerusalem, the Dome of the Rock. After Mecca and Medina, it is Islam's third most holy site in the world to over 1.5 billion Muslims. The octagonal-shaped structure is one of the world's most beautiful architectural treasures. The gold-covered dome stretches 60 feet across and rises to an apex more than 100 feet high. But there is a problem. The Dome of the Rock also sits on the site of both the first and the second ancient Jewish temples in Jerusalem, the Temple Mount.
The Temple Mount is the most important piece of real estate on the face of the earth today.
The temple site is a tremendous bone of contention between Judaism and Islam.
The temple is the flashpoint for hostility throughout the entire Middle East and the world.
When you come right down to it, the Temple Mount is the focus of the current Arab-Israeli conflict.
The Temple Mount is also the most holy site in the world to over 13 million Jews, 5 million of whom now live in Israel. Since the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel now controls the Temple Mount.
It is there, according to prophecy, that the throne of David will be reestablished, making Israel the head of the nations.
If Israel was to attempt to rebuild the temple, it would be a signal to the Muslims that either the God of Israel is superior to Allah or at least equal to Allah. And I have spoken to literally hundreds of Muslims about this. They said they will not tolerate it.
It's a very important thing, the temple, and in fact it will be rebuilt someday, but that rebuilding of the temple will in fact precipitate the type of things we're talking about. A lot of the terrorist organizations are named after the temple. They build this around the belief of liberating the temple. It's a very, very strategic spot, protected greatly by the Israeli government because they know the seriousness of it. Because the fact of the prophecy of Isaiah that Satan would make his command and control center on that spot, a man will come on the scene and he will lead the direction for the rebuilding of the temple. He'll pave the way for a seemingly logical deception and delusion that will head right towards Israel and the temple site.
Following the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD by the Romans, the Jews were dispersed throughout the known world. For the next several hundred years, the city of Jerusalem changed hands many times. Then, in 637 AD, just 5 years after the death of Muhammad, his followers conquered Jerusalem and it became a Muslim city. The Dome of the Rock has remained essentially unchanged for more than 1,300 years. Built in 690 AD, the Dome of the Rock, also known as the Mosque of Omar, covers a sacred rock, which Muslims believe is the spot from which Muhammad ascended through the heavens to God. According to biblical prophecy, the Temple Mount is also to be the site of the third and final Jewish temple in the time of the Messiah, or what Christians would call the second coming of Christ. It's a simple law of physics. Two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. If the third temple is to be built on the Temple Mount, then the Dome of the Rock must go. Both Muslims and Jews claim divine rights to the Temple Mount. Muslims claim that, quote, the archaeology of Jerusalem is diverse. However, outside of what is written in the Old and New Testaments, there is no tangible evidence of any Jewish remains in the old city of Jerusalem and its immediate vicinity. The claims being made by the rulers of Israel and its rabbis about the alleged temple are pure fabrications without any base or foundation. At the same time, Jews claim the Quran is not a divinely inspired scripture. Therefore, they do not believe that Muhammad was a prophet or that he experienced an alleged night trip to Jerusalem as described in the Quran. Some Jews hold that the Quran's discussion of the night trip never involved Jerusalem or the Temple Mount, since the place of the event is not specified, but rather that this was a later Muslim reinterpretation of the verse made for political reasons.
The Temple Mount, according to the modern Jewish Sanhedrin, is to be the place where a new assembly building is to be built.
The great dispute over the title deed. One group contesting that the title deed belongs to us, through Ishmael, Abraham's seed Ishmael, by a midwife. The other group contesting that the title deed belongs to us through Isaac.
This puts Israel in direct conflict with the Arabs, who call the Temple Mount the Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, and who claim that Mohammed has prior claim on that real estate.
For the temple to be rebuilt, to my opinion, it's only going to come after horrific wars and the power of Islam is broken.
It's disputed over two books. One book says it's Ishmael, the other says it's Isaac. It's a battle between two books with the temple site in the middle of it. Two spirits with the temple site in the middle of it. Two kingdoms with the temple site in the middle of it.
Natural disasters like earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes do play a major part, in my opinion, in fulfilling biblical prophecy. The famines, the death, the four riders of the apocalypse, all could be filled by natural, quote-unquote, geophysical events. Drought certainly kills crops. War causes loss of crop production as well, and especially if we use defoliants and viruses and all kinds of other things like that. These natural disasters, though, are the major players, and in my opinion, they will be the major factors killing off a number of people, because it has to be something from the hand of God, not something man-made that you could point a finger and say, oh, well, he did that or that country did this. That is an act of God. Even the insurance companies call it that. And the insurance companies are becoming increasingly aware every year in their conferences of how many natural disasters are increasing in strength and damage and death toll. I see an asteroid hitting the Earth as part of the prophecies being fulfilled, and probably in an ocean. There's a volcano down in Lake Taupo, or the caldera of Taupo in the North Island of New Zealand, and that one's really got my attention. The last time it erupted was 87 AD, and when it did, it caused 3 days of darkness so strong that China, the astronomers in China recorded 3 days of darkness, and that's on the other side of the planet from it. Now, Lake Taupo could fulfill part of the seals, one of them in particular, when the burning mountain is cast into the sea. Well, the locals in New Zealand, North Island, call Lake Taupo the Sea of Taupo. It used to be connected to the Pacific Ocean, but it's not any longer. There are 3 volcanoes on the edge of the caldera that once was the Taupo volcano, and these 3 volcanoes, any of them, particularly Mount Ruapehu, could blow its top, and a burning mountain in the ancient days was a volcano, that's what they called it, could blow its top down into the Lake Taupo beneath it, or Lake Taupo itself could erupt. It doesn't matter. There's a number of volcanoes all clustered together. So that particular thing, Lake Taupo, to me seems to be one of the major players geophysically in the planet, and the great earthquake that's going to shake the whole planet. That is definitely forming now. We're seeing it in our daily reports from the Navy. The core of the planet, Earth, is actually expanding slightly. As a result, the skin is stretching, and these plates are starting to pull apart, and it's going to let magma and earthquakes happen all across.